Big news drop today. We knew it was going to happen, but we were waiting for the specifics here. Tucker Kraft's out for the year. ACL injury. Up comes Luke Musgrave. We've done this earlier this season, but we're going to deep dive Luke Musgrave, the good, the bad, the ugly, the advanced analytics, so you can decide whether or not you want him for your fantasy football team. Before we dig in, you need to click that subscribe button right now. We're doing deep dives every day on as many players as possible so you can get that advanced analytics, the situation, so you can make your choice. You can make your play on that player. Maybe it's to stay away. Maybe it's to go the other way. But I'm going to give you the data and info so you can make your decision. Click that button. Stop missing out. Ric Flair is watching. You don't want to disappoint Ric Flair. But Kraft is out. He's done for the year, per source, per Adam Schefter, and had a good season. One of the few consistent tight ends out there. And consistency at the tight end spot is very rare, especially with good production. In comes Luke Musgrave. He kind of looks like Jake the Snake Roberts in the face now that I'm looking at him. Like if Jake the Snake and Dale Earnhardt had a baby and let him grow his hair out a little bit, you got Luke Musgrave. Do you see that or do you not? Or is that crazy? Hasn't fired this year, but they have Tucker Kraft. But he has a very interesting prospect profile. He's on the Packers. This team's got good movement. They're in funny game scripts every single week with good workload. Some games, though, like the Carolina game with their defense, can stalemate out. What you're seeing here from Oregon State here, you're looking at the production. You're wondering, why are we paying attention to this guy? One thing is the average depth of target. 12.5 on his career, 13.3 his highest, 2021, 13. He's getting deep balls for the tight end spot. He can stretch it down the seam. That's a big playability. He can get you that splash volume. 247 routes ran in 2021, 340 yards and a touchdown. He had a lot of injuries. That's why the metrics aren't going to the moon. He had a lot of injuries. He was banged up. And that's something we've seen throughout his career with the Packers, too. He's highly athletic. He matches Tucker Kraft a lot. If not, usurps him. He also was drafted ahead of him. He's more athletic, but Kraft is more crafty. Kraft is from the FCS level. They got him at a discount, and he had to develop a little bit because he's gone from small school to the NFL. Musgrave had to develop a little bit because he was often injured and then coming to the NFL. But both these tight ends actually have very juicy profiles coming out of college. A lot of teams will double dip at the tight end spot when they want to make that move because tendency-wise, usually one will hit and one will be so-so. The Ravens do this a lot. Go check their drafts out over the last 10 years. They've done that 2 or 3 times over the last 10 years. Tucker Kraft, Luke Musgrave. You're looking at their fantasy scoring. Start off Luke Musgrave. He was a second-round pick. Good athleticism. He gets banged up. Tucker Kraft steps in. He's a good player, also a good prospect. Bada bing, bada boom. He becomes the fantasy asset. 8.7 PPR points per game over his career and really starting to come in stride this year. Had some good moments last year, but scoring-wise, solid. Both years, really. The injury report for Musgrave, he lives there. 2024, 10 games. Then a quad strain. Lacerated kidney, ankle sprain, concussion. That on top of what happened at college, just about something every single year. That is the risk with him and for this Packers team. But he's a good prospect, highly athletic. You're seeing what he can do on the field here and what you're seeing this year. He has 5 first-read targets. He has 7 targets on the season. Not a lot of work to really hit your wagon to. But what we saw in college was those deep A-dots. And considering he's a backup used intermittently, there are some games where he gets targeted downfield. You see that in his prospect profile. So when they can push it downfield or when they need to push it downfield, they're going to do it with Luke Musgrave. He's going to get it downfield. He's a mismatch nightmare like Kraft is. Not the same player, but a good prospect that could yield snaps and routes on any given team, pretty much, unless they got a stud like Brock Bowers. Luke Musgrave is a very good prospect at the tight end position. He's just got to stay healthy and rack up games. You're seeing the routes ran yesterday, and he took over the routes once Kraft got out. So if you're wondering if he's getting messed with, odds are not too likely. And you're looking at the route participation rates here, 78% for Kraft, 20% for Musgrave. Fitzpatrick has been getting mixed in there as they're both running 6 and 5 routes per game, but it's been the Kraft show, so they're just using them intermittently. But Musgrave's the next man up. He's the guy that's going to be running the routes. He's going to be getting the opportunities. He can insert into Kraft's role. Not going to say they're going to be the same, but they do have some similarities here when it comes to average depth of target, as both of them can get it downfield, rack up air yards. When you're looking at target share throughout their career, Luke Musgrave had a 27% target rate last year, and you're seeing Kraft at 23 and 26 over the last 2 seasons. When these guys are on the field, love looks their way. That is what that says. 12% target share, his best year for Musgrave in 2023. Kraft is releasing a 20.6% target share. I do not expect Musgrave to get a 20% target share. I do not expect everything to go 1-for-1. I expect the targets to disperse out a little bit to the other wide receivers. I think Christian Watson could be a look. I think Doubs, I think the carousel effect will ramp up for these wide receivers. And I could see Musgrave hovering around a 17-ish% target share. Like it reducing a little bit, but they still got to go to the tight end. I look for him to be around 15, 16, 17%. I look for him to have some splash weeks still. And Jaden Reed's going to be back soon. He's coming close to practice. That's something to pay attention to on this Packers offense. You're looking at the targets here. Romeo Doubs is leading the team in targets with a 21% target share. They just lost a 20% target share. And you got Golden. You also got Watson in the offense. They're going to fight out for targets. You got the running backs. I think it's going to spread out a little bit in this offense. It ain't all going to go to Musgrave. Musgrave is going to compete with those wide receivers. He's going to be running routes. He should be good for around 5-ish targets a game. Golden is another player in this offense to pay attention to. This may cause a target or 2 extra to roll his way throughout these games, considering he's creating separation per the metrics and what we're seeing on tape. That could help him splash on the back end of the season. You're looking at some of these matchups here. They're not all juicy, but again, we're running more routes. We're getting more opportunity. When you look at the waiver wire, Colston Loveland might already be stashed. He was in some start-sit questions already. He was stashed a few weeks prior. He's probably already stashed, and this is the next man up. There are not many other tight ends to look at off the waiver wire, so you might have to make this move anyways. At least you know he's going to get plugged in, run a good bit of routes, get targets, get opportunities. Whatever happens, happens after that. Why? Because we're going to run more routes. We're going to get more targets. There's probably nothing else on the waiver wire. I would have Colston Loveland ahead of him just due to sheer upside, just due to the volume in that offense. I expect him to splash. There's a better chance of him turning into Gadsden than Musgrave. There's a better chance for that. Other tight ends you'd have to ask, but Kincaid, more volume in that passing offense. I think he's going to be off and on. I think Musgrave's going to be off and on, but a little bit more off than Kincaid. But I expect Kincaid to be rostered. Like, I expect him to be rostered. So, more often than not, I expect Musgrave to be one of the few tight ends to be there off the waiver wire. And if you got to make that bet, you got to make that bet. Why not? If there's a tight end that got dropped that you like better. It's the tight end position. The tight end position's very boom-bust, up and down, volatile. Maybe not so much boom either. It's just up and down, and you're hoping that he gets that touchdown. That's probably what you're hoping, he gets the touchdown. But I also like him better than a lot of those touchdown merchants at the tight end spot because there's some ambiguous upside due to his size of just athleticism, potency of the offense, and then also we got a little bit of a history with him scoring well in fantasy. Let me know what you think in the comments below. I want to hear about that. Make sure you hit that subscribe button on the way out. Thank you for watching. Catch you on the next video.